How to Evict a Ghost by Reader Revolution. Summary. The teen looked up, dead serious. This apartment is haunted. Tim, who had not even taken his first sip of coffee, pinched the bridge of his nose. And you got in here how? The teen swallowed his bite and gestured vaguely. I'm haunting this apartment. Tim stared, looked at the Oreos, looked back at the teen. Then, without a word, he turned, poured himself a shot of espresso, and threw it back like it was hard liquor. Or, Tim just wants his roommate to pay for rent. Tim had lived through many things in his life. Late-night cramming sessions, hangovers, so bad he questioned his life choices, a roommate who thought that soap was a government conspiracy. But this was new. He had moved into his new apartment just yesterday. It was a nice place, cheap, decent view, and most importantly, no rats. So when he woke up this morning, all he wanted was a nice, strong espresso to kickstart his day. Instead, he found a glowing teenager sitting at his kitchen table, casually munching on his emergency Oreos. The teen looked up, dead serious. This apartment is haunted. Tim, who had not even taken his first sip of coffee, pinched the bridge of his nose. And you got in here how? The teen swallowed his bite and gestured vaguely. I'm haunting this apartment. Tim stared, looked at the Oreos, looked back at the teen. Then, without a word, he turned, poured himself a shot of espresso, and threw it back like it was hard liquor. Okay, sure, all right. But if you're here, you have to pay rent. The teen stopped chewing, blinked, then very deliberately pointed at himself. I'm dead. His tone was almost offended. How exactly am I supposed to pay rent? Tim crossed his arms. Not my problem. You exist in my apartment, you pay your share. The teen, still mid-Oreo consumption, turned to him, as if he lost his mind. They kept staring at each other in silence, the tension thick in the air. Finally, the teen, still holding an Oreo, began to fade from sight, raising a peace sign as he disappeared. Tim didn't even flinch. I will get that rent money! The apartment door creaked open on its own. The lights flickered. The coffee machine made a noise that sounded suspiciously like ghostly laughter. Tim sighed, grabbed a notebook, and started writing. Title: How to Legally Evict a Ghost. Step 1. Call a priest. Step 2. Call a lawyer. Step 3. Call a lawyer-priest. Those must exist. The ghost reappeared next to him, peering over his shoulder. You can't evict me. I'm legally deceased. Tim flipped to a new page. Step 4. Find a way to legally resurrect a ghost just to charge them rent. The ghost let out a low whistle. All right. Now I kinda wanna see you try. Tim closed his notebook with finality. Great. Now stop eating my Oreos. The ghost held eye contact and stuffed another Oreo in his mouth. Tim inhaled sharply. You little... The ghost faced through the wall mid-sentence, making sure to snag another Oreo on the way. Tim will get his money. Tim woke up to find his kitchen chair floating. Not an inch or two, no, fully levitating. The ghost was lounging upside down in mid-air, casually tossing one of Tim's apples in his hand. I made some adjustments, he said. Tim stared. Put my chair down. The chair spun in a slow circle. But thank you. Put it down. The chair was set down. The ghost did not stop floating. Tim poured himself a cup of coffee. He had to work soon, and he refused to deal with this nonsense before caffeine. I have a question, he said finally, sipping his coffee. Shoot. How did you die? The ghost made a vague gesture. Tragic backstory. Don't worry about it. Tim squinted at him. If I figure out how you died, I can sue your murderer for unpaid rent. The ghost actually choked on air. This is, without a doubt, The most capitalist thing I have ever heard. Tim shrugged. Rent's expensive. The ghost rolled his eyes. I will have you know, this apartment used to be mine. Tim froze. Wait, you used to live here? Yep. The ghost took a bite of the apple, which was somehow possible, despite him being dead. Tim looked around his apartment, suddenly suspicious. Does that mean your name is still on the lease? The ghost paused, then, very carefully, floated through the ceiling. Tim smirked. That's what I thought. Tim sat at his laptop, filling out what was possibly the dumbest Google search he had ever typed. How to sue a ghost for unpaid rent. The ghost, peering over his shoulder, let out an offended gasp. How dare you? Tim clicked the first link. Oh, I dare. The lights flickered. The coffee machine whirred menacingly. The ghost slowly started to sink into the floor. Tim sipped his coffee, unfazed. I will haunt you back, Casper. The ghost stopped sinking. That's offensive. Tim raised an eyebrow. It is? What's your name then? It's a mystery. Tim pulled up another tab. Then I will just check these lease records. The ghost made a strangled noise. Tim walked into the living room to find that his entire couch was missing. He turned to the ghost, who was floating innocently near the ceiling. Where's my couch? The ghost hummed. It's on a spiritual journey. Tim cracked his knuckles. I will exercise you so hard, because Tim had it. He had tried being patient, had tried negotiating, but after waking up to find all his furniture floating in the air and the ghost smugly sipping from his coffee cup, Tim decided enough was enough. So he did what any rational, sleep-deprived man would do. He called a priest. Father O'Malley arrived with a Bible, a cross, and the very expression of a man who had seen too much. So, he said, stepping inside, where is the spirit? Tim pointed to the couch, where the ghost was lounging, flipping through a magazine. The priest blinked. Huh, you weren't kidding. The ghost looked up, unimpressed. Oh, great, an exorcist. Hello, Father. Tim folded his arms. He eats my food, steals my furniture, and refuses to pay rent. Fix it. Father O'Malley adjusted his glasses. Son, have you considered that this ghost might just need guidance? Tim deadpanned. Have you considered that I need him gone? The priest sighed, then turned to the ghost. All right, lost soul, it's time for you to move on. The ghost threw his hands up. Move on where? Rent is too high, even in the afterlife. Tim scowled. Rent is too high for me, and I'm still alive. The priest hesitated. Wait, so this is about rent? Yes, Tim and the ghost said at the same time. There was a long pause. Then Father O'Malley very calmly sat down and pinched the bridge of his nose. This is not what I was trained for. Attempt 1. Holy water. The priest pulled out a small bottle of holy water and approached the ghost cautiously. Spirit, I command you to leave this place. He sprinkled a few drops. The ghost hissed dramatically, frailing backward. Ah, it burns! Tim's eyes widened. Wait, really? The ghost immediately stopped, sitting up. Nah, I'm kidding. Feels like a light drizzle. Tim turned to the priest. Do it again, but more. Father O'Malley sighed and threw the entire bottle at the ghost's face. The ghost blinked, then slowly wiped his dripping face. That was rude. Tim drew up his hands. Why isn't it working? The priest shook the empty bottle. Well, technically, holy water only works on demons. Tim clenched his jaw. I'm going to commit a crime. Attempt 2. The power of Christ maybe compels you. All right, the priest said, flipping through his book. Let's try an exorcism prayer. He cleared his throat. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy... The ghost yawned. Tim scrawled. At least pretend it's working. The ghost stretched. Nah, I'm good. The priest slowly lowered his book. I don't think this is a demonic possession. Tim rubbed his temples. No, it's worse. It's a tenant. The ghost smirked. Correction, an unpaying tenant. Tim picked up a pillow and threw it at him. The ghost let it face through him, just to be annoying. Attempt 3. Bribery. The priest, now looking more exhausted than holy, sat down with a sigh. Okay, let's say I can't force you to move on. What would convince you to leave? The ghost hummed, tapping his chin. A better apartment. Tim scoffed. What? Is there a ghost real estate market? The ghost shrugged. I mean, I'd consider leaving if you found me a place with free Wi-Fi. Tim turned to the priest. Got any connections in the afterlife? Father O'Malley deadpanned. I am not a ghost realtor. Final attempt. Holy eviction notice. Tim, now beyond done, grabbed a sticky note, scribbled something down, and slapped it onto the ghost's forehead. The ghost peeled it off and read, Notice, you have been evicted by divine intervention. Please evacuate the premises or start paying rent. Management. The ghost blinked, then slowly started to fade. Tim gasped. Right? It's actually working? The ghost's eyes glowed ominously. Then he reappeared next to Tim's fridge, flipping him off. Nah, I just thought it'd be funny. Tim grabbed the nearest object, a banana, and threw it at him. Final result, acceptance. Kinda, not really. Tim is already calling a lawyer. Half an hour later, Father O'Malley sat at the kitchen table, drinking a cup of Tim's coffee. Tim sat across from him, looking dead inside. The ghost was still floating nearby, smug as ever. So, the priest said, sipping his coffee, since I can't remove him, have you considered coexisting? Tim scowled. Not an option. The ghost shrugged. I mean, I could pay rent. Tim and the priest both turned to him, surprised. But I won't. Tim lunged at him. The ghost crackled and faced through the wall. Father O'Malley sighed, finishing his coffee. Yeah, I'm gonna charge extra for this one. After the priest had utterly failed to get rid of his unwanted spectral roommate, Tim moved on to plan B, sue the ghost into oblivion. Tim sat across from Mr. Benjamin Rich Lawson, attorney at law, in a dimly lit office that smelled faintly of desperation and printer ink. The lawyer adjusted his tie and flipped open a legal pad. So, Mr. Drake, just Tim. All right, just Tim. Tim groaned. No, I meant, never mind. Rich shrugged. So, what's the issue? Tim took a deep breath. I want to sue my roommate for unpaid rent. Rich nodded. Pretty standard. What's their name? Tim hesitated. I don't know. Rich paused. You don't know your roommate's name? Tim clenched his jaw. He never told me. Rich sighed. All right. But he's on the lease, correct? Tim twitched. Technically, he's dead. There was a long silence. Richard slowly closed his legal pad. I'm sorry, what? Attempt 1. Legal eviction. Richard rubbed his temples. Okay, let's go step by step. This roommate of yours exists. Tim scowled. Oh, he exists, all right. He eats my food, steals my Wi-Fi, refuses to pay rent, and he's dead. Rich pinched the bridge of his nose. All right, so we're dealing with a ghost. Tim nodded. Rich exhaled sharply and pulled out a thick book. He flipped through it before stopping on a page. Ha! He muttered. Legally, ghosts don't count as tenants. Tim sat up. So I can evict him? Rich shook his head. No, because legally he doesn't exist. Tim slammed a fist on the desk. Then who's using my coffee machine? Attempt 2. Contractual obligations. Rich cleared his throat. All right, let's take another route. Did this ghost agree to pay rent? Tim smirked. No, but he ate my Oreos. That counts as a transaction, right? Richard flipped through another book. Technically, if there was an implied agreement. Before he could finish, the ghost materialized out of thin air, lazily floating in the air above Tim's chair. War, 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 the ghost said, waving his hands. I never signed anything. Richard yelped, nearly knocking over his coffee. What the? Tim didn't even flinch. Oh, great. You're here. Pay your rent. The ghost rolled his eyes. Still on that? Rich, still recovering from seeing a real-life ghost, gulped. Okay, so do you have any intention of paying rent? The ghost considered. Nope. Rich nodded. Okay, cool. Then I legally declare, the ghost slowly started sinking through the floor. Tim grabbed his sleeve. Don't you dare ghost me, you little... The ghost shot him finger guns as he disappeared completely. Tim inhaled sharply through his nose. Rich, please tell me I can sue a ghost. Rich, still processing what just happened, very slowly closed his book. I'm gonna be honest, Tim. I have no idea how to handle this case. Tim groaned. Fine. Can I at least get him to pay utilities? Richard considered it. Well, legally speaking, ghosts don't use electricity. Tim stared at him. Then why did my bill go up? Rich blinked. Wait, you're saying the ghost is streaming Netflix? Yes. Rich sighed, rubbing his eyes. Final attempt. Who needs to be sued? Richard leaned back in his chair. Okay, so suing him directly won't work. But what if we go through other legal loopholes? Tim perked up. Like what? The ghost who had reappeared was now lounging on Rich's desk. Suddenly grinned. I've got an idea, the ghost said. Tim scowled. Unless it involves you paying rent, I don't want to hear it. The ghost smirked. Oh no, I'm not paying rent. Tim groaned. Then why are you? Because he is. The ghost snapped his fingers, and a printed contract appeared in front of them. Rich squinted. Who's Vlad Masters? Tim raised an eyebrow. Yeah, who's that? The ghost crackled his knuckles. A rich billionaire with too much money and not enough humility, and he owes me a lot more than rent. Rich skimmed the contract, his eyebrows shot up. Wait, this says he legally owes all your debts. The ghost smirked. Yep. Tim slowly grinned. So we can sue him for rent? Richard whistled. Not just rent. Back pay, utilities, damages. He dipped the pen. Says here he also owes this ghost for emotional distress. The ghost nodded. Oh, so much emotional distress. Tim grinned wider. Rich, how can we maximize the payout? Rich adjusted his tie. Well, let's see. I have some very expensive court fees. The ghost smiled. Charge double. Rich chuckled. Now you're speaking my language. 1 week later, Tim was sitting in his apartment, sipping his coffee smugly. The ghost was floating next to him, flipping through a fancy legal document with a fat settlement check attached to it. Tim leaned back. So, you used me to sue a billionaire? The ghost nodded. Yep. Tim took a sip. And now I never have to pay rent again. The ghost smirked. Yep. Tim exhaled. I take back everything I said. You can haunt me forever. The ghost grinned. Glad to hear it, Rumi. And that was the one shot. I hope you liked it. I did very much. I had worries because there's someone else actually made that podfic beforehand. So yeah. But I still found it like this is still fun to read again, so I did. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like, and if you like my videos in general, feel free to subscribe and share my video. I do podfic commissions, like I can read your podfic for you or for someone else. Infos to that are in my channel description and on the screen right now. If you have commissioned me, you can get early access to my Discord server, which I will release to everybody when my channel reaches 2,000 subscribers, and you can like listen to me record videos there live if you wanted to, or just chat, I guess. Also, I find it funny that they actually like made Danny eat an Oreo, because Danny's like black and white, his suit, and the Oreo is black and white, and I was like, If Danny would be any cookie, he would probably be an Oreo. But I have recording highlights for you. So here you go. Alright, now I'm kinda... Alright, now I wanna... God damn it, this is too funny. Sorry. But the fang suit? Probably. But the fang suit... Sorry. But the... I'm not really translating, just want to hear how they say it.
Feng shui.
Feng shui.
Feng shui.
Okay. I don't know if that is just a, like, translating error, if it's just intentional. The ghost took a bite of his apple. Did the ghost... The liquor... The flight's... Father, oh, may... Malay. Father, oh, may... Then... Father, oh, may... Father, oh, may... Then... Molly. Then he reappeared next to Tim. Tim's fridge? What? Wait. Is it fridge? I think it's fridge. Tim sat across from Mr. Benjamin. No. It is German. Okay. I don't... That's word.
Attorney.
The ghost shot him. The ghost... I can just... Why the fuck is this so damn funny? If a printed contract... Tim slowly... Have a nice rest of your time. And see you next time.